Hello. This is we're back again.
What's going on here then?
Back again, Shotgun the Orcs. My name's Aidan. Joined with Tom and Jake.
Yo, big up.
What it do, baby? What episode is this, Aidan?
I'm pretty sure it's episode 5. No, this is episode 6.
No, it's episode 5. Well, I call it episode 5 because I call episode 4 part 2 episode 4 part 2.
No.
I would say that's episode 5.
I think
we're episode 6.
Technically we're on episode 6. Last episode was episode 5, which was part 2 of episode 4.
Yep.
Alright guys, we have this Shotgun the Orcs, episode 6. We're still here, we're back with the crack. Let's fucking do this.
Don't smoke crack.
Tell you what, that crack is really Moorish.
Yeah,
Don't do drugs.
Stay away from the crack kids. So guys, what have we been up to? I'm looking at you, Jake. I'm looking at you, Tom. What's going on?
Well, we're recording on a Monday, which is really throwing me out of whack.
Mate, you've ruined the illusion.
Yeah, what illusion? What illusion are we setting?
Mate,
I don't know. I just thought
we've told people we record on a Wednesday, so it's going to blow their mind knowing that we actually recorded on a Monday for a change, and nothing's happened. It's too early in the week.
It is way too early in the
Absolutely,
week.
fuck all has happened.
And that's all for this week, guys.
See you next week.
See you next Wednesday when equilibrium is restored.
But yeah. So we're all recording a bit early this time because we're not available on Wednesday. We've got a few things coming up. I'm going away to the Chester Zoo with my missus for a birthday. I'm taking up there for a little couple of days away.
You're taking her to the zoo for a birthday?
Yeah, man.
How romantic, man.
I think that's pretty cool, yeah.
Romance isn't dead.
And well, you know how I do. Jake, what are you doing?
On Wednesday, I'm actually double booked, so I couldn't record Wednesday because I'm off to the football, Bournemouth-Chelsea, evening game. My first Bournemouth game of the year, actually, because I haven't been all year. So yeah, looking forward to that. So that's the reason I'm pre-booked.
I was available. I'm always available. I have no life outside the podcast, and apparently. So, but yeah.
Podcast is life.
Hashtag podcast is life.
But yeah, so I think what have we been up to? Again, going back to that, not a lot. I've been editing the podcast. Tom has been planning your wedding.
Yeah. Just wedding planning, sorting all of that out. Getting married in May. So yeah, that's just taken over. But yeah, it's been stressful at times, but I guess it'll be worth it. Nah, I'm joking. It will be. But yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Mad
So what are we talking about today? Before we digress much further, I know we've got a pretty good topic to talk about today.
I'm really looking forward to this one.
I'm fucking excited for this.
It's a chance for me to finally redeem myself from episode 1.
Why is that then, Jay?
So today's topic is sampling. Now, if we rewind a second to episode 1. First Wu-Tang album, and the samples aren't even from songs, they're from films. And you sample them into songs, and I think really you could look at that album and think that started the sampling. Would you agree? Kind of, almost in a way.
We actually need to insert the snippet here.
Fucking hell, literally more work. Honestly, every time we finish this podcast, I'm like, yeah, sound okay. Maybe I could just whack this out. I can just sort out the levels and it'll be sound to then just go out to the world. But fucking these guys, oh, put this here, edit after edit, man. Just keep more work for me.
Mate, it's our genius mind that makes this podcast sound
exactly, mate.
Banging.
Jake, the other week you didn't have your mic plugged in.
It's plugged in today, right? Okay,
just fucking hope so.
Anyway,
I'm
so
recording this.
On episode 1, in conversation, I said, and it came across like I kind of said, Wu-Tang 36 Chambers was the first album that started sampling in hip-hop.
You were telling me that?
I didn't mean that. What I meant to say was more of
You actually put it in writing as well?
Yeah, you kept saying. I was trying to tell you, no, you're just like, mate, Wu-Tang Clan that started hip-hop. Actually, then you said I think it was Kanye West was the birth of hip-hop.
Yeah, man, I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. I spent this weekend listening to Bring Me Horizon's new album.
Oh, days.
Unplug it again.
No, sorry, Jay, crack on.
Facts. Anyway, I didn't mean that. What I meant to say, it was kind of a new way of sampling, introducing kind of samples from film and cinema and things like that, rather than just sampling other music previous and going through the decades. So that's what I kind of meant to say, but it just came across wrong. And I just wanted this It's my opportunity to redeem myself.
It's alright, man. We believe you, but I think we'll park Wu-Tang for now. We got to go back further in time. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of our conversation, what have you guys been watching? What have you guys been up to? Been listening to anything decent? What's happening in the lives of Aidan and Jake?
Well, listen to J. Cole's new track. I don't know if you boys actually had the opportunity to listen to
Middle
it.
Child.
Middle Child. That dropped on... I can't remember actually. Last week, Thursday, Friday.
Jake is our resident J. Cole stan, who fucking loves J. Cole. And
I do love J. Cole.
Not
as much as my best mate Tom loves J. Cole, and when I know he'll be listening to this, and if we do an episode dedicated just to J. Cole, then I'll be sure to make sure he comes on and talks about it. But I do like J. Cole. I do like him a lot. But yeah, this track Middle Child really good. Wasn't really massively keen on like the beat to it, but the actual lyrics and the meaning behind the song. Kind of indicating that he's like the middle, the era of hip hop that he was that he's in. He's almost like that middle child. You've got like your OGs, and then you've got like your new hip hop artists coming through, and then J. Cole kind of sits sort of like your Kendricks and that comfortably in the middle, but kind of a bit more of a awkward position to be in.
Yeah, I can understand that because he's quite a conscious rapper. He's very switched on. He's very intelligent. And I've got a lot of time for J. Cole. I've been following him for a long time. I just feel like he has never properly realised his full potential yet. Like it's always like, as you said, like the beat may let him down, or there's just something missing for me that like stops him from really getting to that point of greatness, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Because I really love the idea of him. Like I'm a big fan, but he just I don't know what it is. I just can't.
Let's just see what he drops this year, project-wise, and we'll also see how Revenge of the Dream is free when that drops, and hopefully that's going to be quite soon.
Do you think he's released a perfect album yet?
I wouldn't say a perfect album, no. There are a lot of albums I really, really like, but there might just be the odd track or something where I'm not overly keen on, and therefore wouldn't necessarily say it's a perfect album, but... I do like pretty much all of his albums. I really, really highly like them. But to say they're absolutely perfect, I know it's coming with J. Cole.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same.
I think it is coming.
Yeah.
And I probably reckon it's going to come this year.
Speaking of J. Cole,
it's his birthday today.
Happy birthday, J. Cole.
Big up J. Cole, happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday, I know you're listening.
I'm sorry for saying that you haven't realised your full potential. Oh, fuck, he's not listening.
He's going to come out now, and he's going to release a song called Full Potential.
Yeah, let's shotgun the Orcs down.
Yeah. So that's what I've been listening to. And when I said I listened to Bring Me the Horizon's album this weekend, I legitimately did.
Is it,
not
they
saying
still
I'm
do
a
like
metalhead.
screamo stuff?
No, that's honestly the one reason I listened to it is because I saw him on TV and I thought, how the fuck did they get on TV? For the Bring Me the Horizon that I remember from years and years ago.
They were on Good Morning.
I can't remember what they were on.
Some news program.
Some Sunday TV, Sunday brunch, there we are. I was like, how the fuck did they get on TV? Anyway, they performed and I was like, this is not what they used to be like. So I saw the album come up on Apple Music and I was like, I'll flick through some of the tracks and it's just all kind of like pop songs, quite techno. I can't get my words out, but techno-y is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and I was just like, what the fuck? They've changed in the last like.
So before we alienate any more listeners, I will say that the cool thing about Bring Me the Horizon is that it looks like Bournemouth. Like,
yeah. Sometimes you see
big
it
up
going
Bournemouth,
down and you think it is Bournemouth. So big up yourselves and moving on from that shit.
Just before you go on for that, I just want to say that I think Bring Me the Horizon may be the perfect example of when of a band that have been signed to a label and changed and been moulded into something that makes money. Because they've gone from like this like screamo band, and you get like a lot of Grebos, I like emos and all that sort. Like I fucking love them. Like they were a boy band and they had a massive, huge following.
But that's what they were
a few years ago, and then that's kind of been transformed, and then now this sort of like they're going into the charts, obviously, and they've got the sort of look and the image that can go into the charts. It's mad how like labels could.
They moulded them completely.
I remember I was speaking to my friend once, and he did a bit of work with Red Bull, and it was so he was telling me about this band who was signed to Red Bull, and they had this particular sound, And they went on tour. They did loads of music and stuff like that. And then they just weren't really making music like really like selling out stuff and hitting their potential. So what Red Bull actually did was they just thought, okay, scratch this. We're going to completely turn this group of guys around and just do completely different music. So it's like it's weird because it takes away the sort of the
authenticity.
The authenticity of it. And it's just like, right, we know what's going to sell now. Marketing.
Yeah.
Stats.
Shovelware.
Well, to bring that into context,
weird,
if you think of grime, going back probably maybe 10 years ago or maybe a little less, but if you think of when that kind of went into the charts, with like Tinchy Strider did a song with, can't remember his name, American hip hop artist. Anyway, but like that was very heavily controlled by these labels who realised that grime was going to be this thing and they really pushed it, but it just kind of lost all its kind of what it was all about, and then obviously full circle kind of grime dropped off a bit, and then obviously Meridian Dan came out with like German Whip, and then That's Not Me with Skepta and JME, and grime kind of like then came back with those kind of tracks. So but there was that period of time where grime was kind of that like mainstream, and it was really controlled by these record labels, and it just kind of lost everything that it was about.
I remember that time really, really well. It was painful, but at the same time, you kind of think, well, if an artist is smart, typically they will think, okay, I might not have it might be a short-lived career.
Yeah,
it's difficult to tell, so I'll make bank. Whereas someone with more kind of artistic integrity would probably think, you know what, I'm not going to compromise my style, my content, my creative output. I'm going to do me, and if people like me, I'm still going to last. Obviously, I think some rappers kind of, straddle the line between both. I love some rappers who have gone fully commercial, and I embrace it, especially from the States. Snoop Dogg, for example. I'm always going to be bumping a bit of Snoop, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, But yeah, I think typically it is like flash in the pan type artists who are like, whatever, like let's look Dappy, N-Dubs, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, fuck it. Like,
he's really reappeared recently, Dappy. I've just saw
acoustic stuff, isn't he?
sorry for bringing Dappy into the discussion.
Sorry about this, guys. Let's just stop that conversation there. I don't have to.
All right, no more Dappy.
No more Dappy.
Moving on from that, I was just going to say. Tom, I've been listening to, you'll be proud of me, that Pharaoh Monch,
man, come on.
The album Desire.
Right. What
listen to that,
an album.
I really fucking like it, man.
Yes.
Really like it.
Pharaoh Monch is ghostwritten for so many big names.
Ghostwritten?
Written lyrics for bigger rappers.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
He is probably hands down like one of the most technically gifted, talented MCs in the world. Period.
Really?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Oh shit.
Go back and listen to Organised Confusion. Go and listen to them. But yeah, he's just next level.
Oh, sick.
He had the kind of takeoff hit, Simon Says, because Busta Rhymes discovered him and was just like, this needs radio play and put it out there. And that's probably, I don't know whether you've heard that track, but it's I guarantee you have, but probably just can't remember it.
Probably,
the one that's like, get the fuck up. Simon Says, get the fuck up.
Oh yeah, I know the one.
You know the one. But yeah, that album is that is next level.
Yeah,
his
wordplay.
I'm a big Pharaoh stan.
Yeah. Good. I'll keep listening, working my way through the albums.
So I've been watching on Netflix. They just released a crime documentary about the Ted Bundy killings, called the Ted Bundy tapes. Watched the first. I think it's 4 episodes in total.
Who's Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy was a serial killer in the 70s.
Right.
And the thing about him was, unlike it was on the kind of the inception of the kind of term serial killer. So before that, it had never been kind of coined. It had never been used, and the whole psychology behind serial killings had never really been explored until people like Ted Bundy came into existence. And the thing that distinguished him between other serial killers is that he was very, very charming. He was kind of classically good looking. He was educated. He was he had a law degree, but he had a tendency to rape and kill girls. And so and this documentary is
not
chilling.
a nice fella then.
No, and so basically it documents all of his kind of all of his killings and stuff, and you've got all like the original grainy footage from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So it gives the whole documentary really like grainy, chilling aesthetic watching it. And like one of the survivors like retells a story when she was almost abducted by him, and it is harrowing, man. And it's interesting.
That's mad.
It's a good kind of like psychological profile.
Watch.
Because I don't know about you guys, but like when it comes to watching documentaries and stuff, it's more like morbidly fascinating watching something about someone who's bad versus someone who's good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because it's escapism, isn't it? It's like nobody really
shock value.
Exactly, because you can't relate to it at all.
No.
It's something that you would never experience or think yourself.
That's how GTA was so successful. GTA, like,
exactly.
Yeah, you're virtually doing things that you probably like want to do, but you can't.
yeah, exactly, man. It's fucked up.
But no, me and Emily started watching it, but I kept falling asleep and things like that. So really with these Ted Bundy things, I need to just go back from the beginning and start watching again. But I did see that they're looking to make like a movie with Zac Efron starring as Ted Bundy, which, if you ask me, is really fucking weird because you're almost kind of like glamorizing, almost in like a Wolf of Wall Street kind of way, but Wolf of Wall Street is completely different, but you're almost kind of putting that spin on it. You've got Zac Efron playing this.
I know what you mean, and I always think about like the survivors or the victims' families. I know it's obviously like always happened. If there's like famous crimes like the Manson family, like they've made films about all this kind of stuff, right? But the thing is, like to your point you were making, I went to this weekend. I was driving around delivering wedding invitations locally to my mates and stuff.
Yeah.
And I dropped by to see my boy Lloyd, and we were talking about the Fire documentary.
Oh yeah.
And he said, his missus watched it and was like, I reckon that Billy McFarlane's going to be like another Jordan Belfort. Like he'll probably come out of prison and he'll like profit from the story.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
Because he's just so like, he has the audacity to do it. Do you know what I mean?
There's been some amazing memes coming out after that Fire documentary. I've seen some absolute fucking.
Did you see So we posted earlier today on Instagram story. They made like a Fire Festival Lego set. I don't know whether it's actually real, but somebody made the box.
So funny, man.
Oh, that's jokes.
But I saw a picture of that Billy and Ja Rule. It's like a picture of those two together, and the meme was my last two brain cells trying to think of a reason to make some money.
Fucking hell. Have you heard as well? They've got that new documentary out about Michael Jackson, and it's called Leaving Neverland. I mean, that's fucking hell, guys.
You left.
What's that saying?
Aidan?
So,
a pubic lynching.
So I was just looking at the title.
Public. It's public.
Michael Jackson's family calls Leaving Neverland a public lynching, which, I mean, you feel sorry for the family because they're kind of like tarnishing his name after his death, but then also, like, apparently from what I've heard, the documentary follows the life of, or follows two people that were actually like abused by him.
Allegedly, yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing behind it. I mean, he's not alive to defend himself. The whole thing's very like, it's been documented for so long, hasn't it? There are so many documentaries about, Neverland and like his alleged history of abuse and stuff.
Yeah, because he was found not guilty.
Yeah, man. I remember watching that on TV, and they're like super fans like releasing doves and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably one reason they made this documentary is they saw the whole R. Kelly thing blow up. And they thought, you know what, Shotgun the Orcs are making so much attention putting R. Kelly on Shotgun the Orcs pedo watch that we better blow up something with MJ.
Let's jump on
I'm joking.
Let's jump on the pedo bandwagon. That's what it is.
I do think though.
It's pedo season.
Before we go into that, right? Because I will say now, right? I love Michael Jackson's music, man. I'm a massive fan of his music. Always have been. I think it's kind of, I don't know. It's one of those weird ones where, and I think we can have a future conversation about this, about separating like the art from the artist.
Yeah.
Once something's in the public domain, even if it's a really kind of fucked up, disturbed person, I'll use the term allegedly again loosely, has made something, it's still okay to listen to it. It's still okay to watch it. It's art. It's open. It's in the. You can do with it what you want.
Yeah.
I've got a lot to talk about on that, so we'll park that for now.
I would agree, man. I mean, I've heard recently like bad stuff about like an artist who I really admire, and I'm not going to go into that. But it's weird because you just got to think. You think like fuck, like that's not on at all. You know, you don't agree with any of that, but then at the same time, you still really fucking like that music.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how do you sort of move
It's
past
a dichotomy that's quite hard to get your head around.
I imagine if you look into it, a lot of artists that are in all day mainstream and being played all the time have probably a slightly dark past, whether it's in, you know, drug abuse or anything like that. So there's always a reason why you could probably not want to listen to someone or like someone.
That's true. And there's always this kind of tendency to hear about like people are judging someone. It's like, who are these people who are casting judgment? Obviously, there are bad people who do bad things, and this isn't condoning any of that. This is not what I'm getting at all. But you know, you always hear like, oh right, so this person's being judged, and everyone's like jumping on a bandwagon.
Yeah.
You think like nobody's fucking perfect, man. It's like nobody knows the full story. But anyway, let's not get political.
No.
Let's park it to another time.
Part of that.
Oh, do you boys watch Hot Ones? Like the chicken wing show on YouTube, man.
No.
Have you seen that, Aidan?
No, what is it?
So it's called Hot Ones, and it's this guy. It's Complex magazine. A guy called Sean Evans interviews loads of celebrities and like rappers and stuff.
Did he do one with Gordon Ramsay?
Yeah. I was just about to say, yeah. So basically, the premise behind it is he interviews celebrities, and he has like a load of chicken wings in front of him. Each one of those chicken wings is marinated in a hot sauce, and it goes up and up and up in the what's the scale that measures heat?
Oh, man, I know this one. All right, I'm not going to bother trying to guess again. Going back to the whole.
I can't remember again, but if anyone remembers, we'll correct that next week. So basically, when he's interviewing people,
right,
and they're eating these really, really fucking hot wings, they let their guard down, right?
Yeah.
And so he's got Gordon Ramsay on here, and the first thing, I mean, he's had so many people on here over the years, like, you know, Ricky Gervais, you had like Action Bronson.
Is
like,
it?
Yeah, on MGK.
I need to have a look into
it's
it.
so good, like Russell Brand, like real kind of everyone, basically.
Yeah.
And then Gordon Ramsay, the first thing he says, I don't think I've heard anyone else say this, is like, oh, these are fucking overcooked. I was like, that's amazing, man.
He's crazy. I do like him. I've started watching his that restaurant thing, USA. When he goes to restaurants and he's so fucking brutal. Like it's jokes, but then some of these restaurants, man, fucking hell, like rat droppings and shit, and like dropping food on the floor. You know, how the fuck these places?
Did you ever see his cocaine documentary where he's basically going to the source of where cocaine comes from? It's to do with, I think, maybe his brother died.
He did like drugs in drug culture in kitchens.
Yeah. And there's the start of the documentary is filmed in Bournemouth. And he's basically in a police car following, and they're pulling over people and kind of not breathalyzing, but doing the test where you can tell if you've got cocaine in your system.
It's always snowing in Bournemouth.
Yes, it's the second Columbia here, man. But yeah, it's in Bournemouth, and he's in Boscombe, and he pulls someone over, and this bloke's like just been pulled over, been tested, and he's like, Gordon Ramsay just sat there in the car trying to act like he's not there, and this bloke's just like, oh, you alright, mate?
Yeah, he's not exactly like, you're not going to not recognise it.
Yeah, because I saw a clip from that, and he got like a wipe that like changes colour when it detects cocaine.
Yeah.
He went into his own staff
toilets, kitchens,
and wiped down all the surfaces, and it will show them positive for cocaine.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not surprised at all, man. I mean, like, yeah, it's rife. But something else I saw like really cracked me up on Instagram. So, do any of you guys follow Gore-Tex? He was in Non-Fiction. They're like a rap group from New York back in the day, like Ill Bill.
Right.
And he always posts really kind of like obscure, quite like cool imagery.
Yeah.
But he posted this and I don't know if this is real, but if it is, I was just like, that's fucking nuts. So you know, DMX was released from prison. He's been in for a year for like tax evasion, and so he had like the
most ungangster thing to get locked up.
I know. I mean, he's poor DMX. I hope he doesn't pick the pipe back up. But so it was like a snippet of the newspaper clipping, and it just said rapper DMX freed. Yeah. But then there was a picture of DMC from Run DMC and not DMX, and I was like, hell. Oh my god, man! I hope that isn't real.
They didn't they do that with that Jay? You'll know this. That footballer, and they put a picture of Stormzy up.
I'm gonna guess that you're talking about Lukaku. I don't know. I reckon he looks a bit like Stormzy, but you know that's for other people to judge. I don't know what you're on about.
Oh fucking hell, man.
It was some sort of article. Yeah. It was that one. Lukaku ready for work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know which newspaper it was, but they put a picture up of Stormzy.
Oh, mate, yeah.
The biggest sort of fuck up.
Man,
do you reckon they definitely
funny.
lost their job?
Well, they should have.
Yeah.
That's terrible, man.
I mean, Stormzy is wearing like a blue tracksuit, like the same as the
mate.
Man United tracksuit. So, you know, no, I'm joking. That's a massive fuck up. But you'd think if that's your job, you would literally do some sort of research.
You have one job, mate. Get a picture of Google, like it's not
Where do
hard.
you think they get their pictures from? Do you think he Googled Lukaku and just... Do you reckon he just had a bank of loads of photos of Stormzy and then accidentally copy and pasted it into his article about Lukaku?
I wouldn't even begin to think about like logistical fuck up about. It's just yeah.
It's funny.
You fucked up.
Put words to it, man. But also we talked. It's J. Cole's birthday today, but it's also the God MC Ray Kim's birthday as well.
Big up.
Big up yourself. I think he's 51 today. That's insane.
Sorry, just going back to the news. What the fuck of that footballer? That
it's terrible.
That's lost at sea. That's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, so Neil Warnock is the Cardiff manager. He's only just released the first statement today about it. Saying that he's always going to quit his job as manager. Over the last week, it's just been like that, kind of crazy. But yeah, it's fucking awful, man. I haven't read a lot into it, but I've just been hearing a lot about it. And yeah, apparently there was like loads of voicemails left to his family. I think he's from Argentina. Saying that like he was like on the plane and he's leaving his voicemail saying like, I think this plane's about to fall apart. Like apparently it was just like that shit of a plane.
It's so sad, man, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just gone fucking.
But then there's also a load of like weird stuff. Apparently the flight was like delayed by like 12 hours for no reason.
Did you see like he didn't he phone his folks beforehand and said like, oh, I feel like jokingly he was like, oh, this is like a piece of shit. I feel like I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
You know, as you would say if you were going onto like a bucket of bolts, you'd be a little bit uneasy.
Yeah.
So it made it even more kind of like it's really sad.
It's sad stuff. I mean, thoughts go out to his friends and family, man. I can't begin to imagine what they're going through. Because they still don't have any answers yet, do they?
No, man.
I just can't believe they haven't actually found anything. No wreckage, nothing.
Mad, isn't it?
Like, it was only flying from France, I think.
Literally France to Guernsey, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Not that far.
Probably to Cardiff.
Oh, was it?
Because he was just
He was
signed
to Cardiff, yeah. So it's
I thought something was Guernsey.
No, I think he crashed over, kind of, that's where they were looking around
right,
Guernsey. But yeah, I mean, mental. That after, obviously, not long ago, the helicopter crash at Leicester. It's not been very good for football.
Do you know what?
Aviation.
I read somewhere recently, like in the past, like year, there's been more aircraft crashes and stuff than like ever before.
Really?
Damn, man.
Like, sorry to anyone.
You think it'd be getting better, but
anyone who's listening to this podcast and they're about to get onto a plane, you know, I'm sorry, like you'll be fine.
Yeah, so like in further unrelated news, right? And I found this out recently. I thought it was quite funny, tying into our so after like Jake's rant about Supreme last week, which was quite funny. I was gonna troll him tonight and wear my most like obnoxious, bright Supreme panel cap, right? But I thought I'd spare him that. But I found out today, you know James Jebbia, the founder of Supreme.
Right.
So obviously he's a British guy.
Yeah.
And he is a former child actor, and he was in an episode of Grange Hill when he was a kid.
No way.
Is it actually?
I was just like, what? Yeah, honestly, man. Validate it if you wanted. But
what's his name again?
James Jebbia.
James Jebbia.
Yeah, spelled like it sounds.
J-E... Jebbia.
Yeah, and then Grange Hill. So, yeah, we're very professional here at Shotgun Yorks. All information is validated. There he is.
Oh my days.
Crazy, isn't it?
I mean, I don't really see the resemblance because that's like quite a lot of years difference there, but he was.
We only talk facts at Shotgun
We
Yorks.
only
Exactly.
talk facts.
Little interesting tidbit there.
Apart from Jake, who just chats out his arse all the time. Fucking, what was it? Who was it? Kanye West created hip hop?
Oh man, shut.
Little Uzi Vert.
You're the new Kanye stan, aren't you?
I'll be honest, I am.
Because I think as Aidan is our kind of, he's very modest, right? But Aidan makes beats, so I think it's important. No. I think this is an episode that he's really going to get into.
I'm looking forward to this.
Definitely, very excited for this.
I think on that note, let's unless any of you boys got anything else to add, shall we?
Let's get into it.
Let's go on.
Should we get?
Right.
I have one more thing to add actually. I was just flicking through our Twitter and Instagram, just seeing if there's anything we've kind of retweeted or posted that we could add a bit of like context to why we did it. And what the first thing that popped up is the Air Max 720s, which I keep banging on about. I'm hoping Nike are just going to get the plug and they're going to send me a pair because I really want some, but I have no fucking money at the moment.
Nike, just so you know, we've got a following of 3 people, okay? We will promote your shoes to those 3 people.
I won't stop going on about them to those 3 people.
Yeah, follow us at Shotgun the Orcs.
But they're literally the fucking nicest shoe, and the box is amazing. You know the tissue that you get in a shoe box?
Well, like a box of tissue.
Is that to wipe up after yourself? Anyway.
Probably. It's like, honestly, it's like, I can't explain it, but it's like, you know when you drop water in oil and it goes that colour? So it's like that, and it's like, it's just next level to what, anyway, they're a fucking sick shoe, man.
On that note.
Sampling.
Let's get on to sampling, our next topic for the week. So yeah, as we said, this week we're talking about sampling through in hip hop, and to do that we've got to go all the way back to the beginning, when you've got Mr. Kool Herc, and it's closely followed by Grandmaster Flash, and I mean you're probably thinking about now like what sampling, but I think sampling, in my opinion, kind of goes back all the way to sort of like the first hip hop and DJing and getting those breaks and flicking between the records, that sort of thing, you know?
Definitely, man. I think like Herc obviously started, well, obviously hip hop officially started in 1973, Sedgwick Avenue, in the Bronx.
It's a house party, wasn't it?
It was all about the kind of live experiences, because the first hip hop record wasn't released until 6 years later. So hip hop was effectively just that.
Yeah.
So it's all about how can we be like innovative and like really create some noise doing what we're doing with these record players. So as Aidan says, yeah, Kool Herc was doing that first. Then Grandmaster Flash comes in and he introduces the crossfader, jumping between, keeping the break beat going, putting the little like, you know, the little kind of notes and stuff on the turntable, so he knows when to like jump between the beats.
Oh yeah, because he got crayon and actually put it on the record to see where to slide it back to.
Exactly, man. It was really like unsophisticated, but I mean it was pioneering. Do you know what I mean? And then Grand Wizard Theodore came in with the scratching as well. Some speculate whether or not that was like intentional, whether it was like a mistake that he made and he just kind of went with it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, man, I created scratching. It's sick, isn't it?
The story that I heard was that he was standing at his record decks, and standing at his decks, and his mum was calling for dinner or something like that, and he just kind of like went like that, pulled the record back and forth, and heard the scratching, was just like, fuck. I just created scratching. I don't know if that's true or not, you know, don't call me on that, but it's a pretty cool like start to scratching, isn't it?
That is pretty sick. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm really excited about this episode today, because like I myself, I've got quite, and I know you boys definitely do, because we talked about music and our taste in music. We all have quite an eclectic, varying taste. Like Jake likes his rock bands. Aidan has like history in metal.
Rock bands.
1975 and.
Alright, of course. I was wondering where you're going with that for a second.
You like your
Bring Me the Horizon. Hang on a minute. Just going to put it out there. I'm not the number one fan, but.
Because I thought you're quite into Christian rock, aren't you, Jake?
Yeah.
You ever seen the episode of Simpsons?
Please you, Jesus. Wanna feel your salvation all over my face. Little South Park reference.
Oh, man.
Take one for the team, Jake.
Mouthwash. So anyway, right, so the point I was making is, so we've all got quite an eclectic taste in music, right? I like everything from kind of like jazz, rock, I like a bit of metal, like garage, classical music, I like fucking everything.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of sampling. I think it's kind of every single type of music that has come after another type has kind of aped something from the previous type of music, right? And it's nothing is original, you know. It's gone back to like we're talking like hundreds of years ago. We're not necessarily talking about like contemporary music as we know it in hip hop.
Yeah.
But I love how like the early stuff was kind of like, right, you know, we don't have any instruments, we don't have the money for instruments. How can we like create something and repurpose it and turn it into something else?
Yeah.
And that's like an art form in itself,
yeah.
Right? I think that's just the whole concept behind hip hop as a movement. It's just, it's so creative. And it really pisses me off when people dismiss it as being like, oh, you're not playing instruments.
Oh.
Like, you've got, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, the kind of, I know it's a generational thing typically, but then not always, because I have conversations with people my age sometimes who aren't into it. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, even if it's the wrong opinion. And I'm like, no. There's an art form to sampling, to DJing, to producing some of these tracks. And it's
100%, man.
I'm not playing an instrument. It's like, okay, well, I'm done.
Do you know, there's nothing that annoys me more than someone that is small-minded or closed-minded about music and can't like appreciate sort of like the genres.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, there are genres you like, there are genres that you don't like so much, but at the end of the day, no one goes out of no one puts out an album with the idea that it's going to be a shit album.
No.
You know, they put 110% into that.
Exactly.
They put all the effort into it, and they make it good. And like, for example, or not for example, but you know, like you're saying about how people kind of say, oh, it's not ripping off, it's ripping off music, you're stealing other things. It's the greatest form of flattery, man. It's imitation. You know, they want to remember these fucking records and what built good memories to them and what the stuff that they grew up with, and they want to, you know, repurpose it.
It's so creative because it's like, right, so we're targeting a demographic of people who, this is originally, don't have any kind of money, don't have means to, you know, buy instruments and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's just create like something from like the breakbeat, you know, where like the instrumentals fell away. You've got a breakbeat. Yeah. Typically, that's what the crowd responded to back in the early days. So like, oh right, shit, this is heavy. People are really responding to this. How can we make that a continuous beat? And that just evolved into, you know, what we know now. And then eventually, it started layering it more and more and more of all these obscure samples. Typically, in the early days, it was all like everyone just ate the fuck out of James Brown, didn't they? Like
Funky
drummer.
Funky drummer. So that's Clyde Stubblefield, which is James Brown's drummer. You know, he's been sampled in everything from Public Enemy, Fight the Power, LL Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out. Just a couple of examples there. And this bloke's never been paid for no royalties for any of this, and he's been sampled. That's 2 songs, like 2 big songs as well.
Yeah.
But he's been sampled in loads and loads of stuff. I watched a really interesting documentary on sampling, and he was in it, and he kind of just said, look, like, don't really bother me that no one actually paid me for any of this, but it got to the point that no one even referenced that this was my drum.
Yeah.
He goes, I wouldn't really care he was like, if you just reference that this was me, that's all I want really, my name on it.
Recognition.
I want recognition for it. I don't want any money because I think it's really cool that people are like reusing my drum stuff. And he's like, at the end of the day, you know, if a 2-second snippet of my drum, that could be anyone. It might not be me. It could be anyone.
Do you know what that really like? That reminds me of who that reminds me of, and just to kind of bring it to more recent times. Rest in peace, like Jay Dilla, like one of the greatest to ever do it. But what you've just described, the kind of like the way he was quite humble and he just loved doing it, but just kind of wanted that recognition. That's very similar to how Jay Dilla was. Jay Dilla has produced like more records than you probably realise, like songs that you kind of think, oh yeah, that's a really, really good track. And it's like, that's Jay Dilla. Like, what? Okay. But he was just all about making music. He didn't give a shit about, you know, the kind of the fame that came with it. He wasn't all about kind of, he wasn't like a Timberland or like a fucking, I'm trying to think, you know, where, like in the kind of early
DJ Khaled.
yeah. Well, mate, he's nothing, is he? I don't know what he is. But you know, like in the early 2000s, like there was a thing where all the producers used to go on, they'd always like announce themselves in a really like obnoxious way. Like he just wasn't about that at all. He was just all about sampling. Absolute purist. But anyway, digress a bit. But that just really reminded me of him.
But going on from Jay Dilla, man, huge props for, I think, for beat makers, he's up there with one of the godfathers of beat making, man. And I watched this documentary about him, and they were saying how, you know, like, obviously the life was make beats, rap, and go out and party the weekend, and they said, like, he would be, you know, he would just be a Saturday night, he would just be making beats. Making beats all through the night. Like, wouldn't drink, would not. I don't know if he blazed or not. I doubt he blazed, but
he had like a blood disease, didn't he? So he died really young.
Oh yeah, he did, of course, didn't he?
Really, really, really sad. So yeah, absolute legend. And I think he did go on to inspire a lot of like my favourite producers. I talk about him all the time, like Ninth Wonder.
Yeah.
And like Mad Lib and people like that. Just absolute, you know, like fantastic producers.
Well, then we go into, you know, sampling is an art form in itself, as we just kind of pointed out. You know, it takes someone who has a really artistic point of view and really clever producers to really pull it off. And in an ideal world, you know, as an artist, you think they can just turn around to an artist and say, you know, you released a track 70 years ago and it was really dope and I want to, you know, sample that in my own stuff. I'll give you the recognition for it and I'll slip you a bit of money if you want, and everyone's fine. But, you know, lawyers want to get involved, and that's kind of like where sampling is now. If you look at it, it's the whole copyright infringement, and then you go into this massive world of, you know, what can you do, what can't you do, who can get away with what, and, you know, all the red tape that's put around sampling, and that's kind of like just destroying it in a certain way.
I think that's a really interesting point, because I think a lot of very like obscure artists, say for example if you're like a weird like folk group from the 60s or 70s, you've had a record out, it hasn't been getting any plays for years, you're not making any money off it, all of a sudden you put on a fucking hip hop record, I don't know how they discover it, but and they're like, wait a minute, yeah, that's my track. So they start realising new streams of revenue just from that. So it's like all these kind of people popping up saying, I want to cash in.
Prime example again, referencing this documentary, but I can't remember the band and I can't remember the hip hop artist who sampled the band. But this was a band, and when I look at them, I was like, I've never fucking heard of you before. I was like, in theory, I'd never fucking listen to you because I think your music's pretty shit, like from what I heard of it. And you probably are like very minuscule in the whole world of music. And this hip hop artist has now sampled you, and suddenly you're throwing a strop about it, and you're kind of suing them for fucking all sorts.
So when was this? Was this early days?
No, we're talking early 90s hip hop.
Oh, what got you?
And I think maybe this kicked off the whole kind of lawyers getting involved with people sampling bits.
Probably right, yeah. I think it's weird because like early sampling, before people were layering various records that already existed, which is an art form in itself. We can go into that a bit more. It was more kind of like bands covering other bands. Yeah. So you had like you know the Sugar Hill Gang, like Rapper's Delight. It was that like the original track was by Chic, and they just had, rather than actually like use the record and sample it, they just had a backing band to like cover the actual track. So it was still like a primitive like kind of form, almost like a prototype of sampling. You know, before
I think
we know it now.
In copyright law, and correct me if any lawyers out there want to kind of write in to correct me on this, I think if you cover
key demographics.
if you cover a song, it's fine. But if you then sample it, Aidan's nodding his head. I think I got this wrong.
I think from what I understand, that is the common misconception, that if you do a cover of it, you'll sound. But no, if you copy anything from it, man, that's copyright. You know, straight up, whatever you do, you take from it, you take a second of it, you take a minute from it, man, you're straight up copyright.
Which makes sense, right? Because if you think about, you know, certain artists try to sue other artists for releasing tracks that sound similar to theirs. Like, if you can't get in trouble for doing a direct cover, then that wouldn't make sense at all, because that's happened so many times throughout history.
You know Frank Ocean's first mixtape? The one with the orange BMW or the album cover.
So what the hell is it called, man? That's going to annoy me. Don't worry, we'll come back. We'll
find out. But there's a song on there called American Wedding, which is essentially his own lyrics, but the actual song is just a copy of Hotel California. Yeah. Is that what would you say on that, Aidan? Is that
Nostalgia Ultra?
Nostalgia Ultra, yeah, is the name of the mixtape. But so it's the tune of Hotel California, but the lyrics are completely different. Yeah. Just Frank Ocean singing into the same tune as that.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, maybe the Eagles are big fans of Frank Ocean,
and they just let him slide, or it's just a mixtape. But then again, there's another misconception, I think, is because you put it on a mixtape and you're not actually releasing it for any commercial gain, that's not copyright, or is it?
Straight up copyright, man. Like
shut down.
Sorry to keep shutting you down here, Jay.
Shotgun.
No. I kind of half knew the answer to that. So I know Mac Miller was done, I think, on Kids because he sampled Fireflies.
Yeah, I think
one of his tracks,
and
I think that came into.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting, quite a big one that happened like recently. Yeah, when he sampled it, and then the fact that he made it for free kind of meant that he wasn't making any financial gain of it, so surely it should be fine. But no, man, like no matter if it's for free or not, or you're getting paid for it, it's still copyright.
So many technicalities, man.
No, I
was just going to say, going back to like the evolution of it. Like I think like after the kind of sampling with records, and beat makers really came into their own, and samplers, you know, and you're probably like best fitted to talk about that, Aidan, I know you're into that. With kind of, you know, like 808s and then the Akai's and all that kind of stuff. Because you watch some of these, and again going back to what I was talking about, and people dismissing hip hop as not being like a real, you know, it's not a real instrument. It's like a beg to differ. But anyway, so have you ever watched Rhythm Roulette?
Yeah, man, fucking love that like show. This guy's so talented.
So if there's anyone listening to this who isn't necessarily a hip hop fan, or I've put you onto it, James, future brother-in-law, yeah, you know I'm talking to you right now.
Mum, Dad.
Mum, Dad, please listen to it.
Lee.
So basically the premise behind this show is you've got like world-class producers, use Ninth Wonder or like Arab music, so they have two very distinctive styles of sampling music. Ninth Wonder's very much, so the whole concept is they go into a record store, they're crate digging, but they wear a blindfold, and they pick up 3 different records, and then they create a beat out of it. They don't always use all 3. Sometimes they only use one, like the best fitted one. Ninth Wonder used all 3. I thought that was really sick, and used turntables and vinyl, whereas Arab music used CDs. But the key is, you know, they upload every single kind of like component of that track onto each of the little each of the panels. What would be the technical term for that, Aidan? On your beat maker, on your sampler?
Your pads.
Your pads, yeah, exactly. And just that kind of how intricate that process is, and how you can just see them in the zone. Like they can understand the music and interpret it in such a way that I can only imagine.
They're so quick to pick up a bit, aren't they? They're so quick to think, that bit, and put it on there.
It is just masterful to watch. So if you haven't seen it, check it out, Rhythm Roulette. Absolutely amazing stuff.
I mean, that's where my kind of love for that sort of stuff comes through, because like you say, when you watch these videos of beat makers, you know, they'll hear a sound that's just like you've got, like, they process that sound in, right, what tempo can I put this into? How will it work sped up? How would it work slowed down? How would it fucking work in reverse, man?
Yeah.
You know, chopped up and fucking tripled and whatever, like whatever they like mess it all up and something like that. But it's a sick sort of process, and you know, you are taking a sound that someone else has made, but you know, no, I've never really heard of anyone that's straight up lied about a sample and be like, nah, that's not that, and denied that they took it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
because that's the point, I guess, isn't it? But it's using like something that's really,
you're not stealing it. Like, it's not being stolen.
Mm-hmm. I'd be quite proud as a producer who sampled a track and made it sound something completely different, or used it in a really cool way. I'd be quite proud to say, I sampled that track and this is what I did with it, rather than denying it completely and trying to throw off that it was all my own work, because I just think someone's going to catch up eventually, man.
The most interesting part though is actually like digging into finding out which part of the sample, you know, so if you hear a track you're like, oh, that's pretty sick. And then going on to, what site is it where it actually tells you like, who sampled? Yeah, so Who Samples a website, and it basically tells you each component of a track. And there's some really like obscure stuff on there, man. It's like, how did these people even... Obviously a main kind of thing that producers do is crate digging. Going around and picking out tracks that they think, okay, I've got a bargain there, or that looks like it could be interesting. And that's the good thing about hip hop, because it's like, it's very versatile.
But boys, you know what would be sick?
What's that?
I know, I hope we have the resources to do this, but I think us 3, one day we'll go down Bournemouth, and we'll do some crate digging. We'll pull out 3 out vinyls, and then Aidan's got to do something with them. So our own episode, Shotgun the Alt edition of
that's a
Rhythm
lot to
Roulette.
live up to, man.
Do you reckon you could do that? Have you got the stuff to do that, firstly?
I've got the equipment, yeah.
Alright, I'm down for it.
I could probably give it a go, man, but again, like, I with work and stuff like that, man, I went away from it for a while, but it used to be so much fun. But like, I think like the general sort of misconception is that, you know, it's literally you take away all the hard work that the previous person's done, but that's not at all, man. Like, mate, I used to fucking like stay up like just to make like a beat, you know. You go through fucking so many records, man. Or you go through so much shit before you find like that one 5-second clip which actually sounds like decent, and then even so you've then got to like play around with it before you can make it sound like good. You know, it's not just Like, I'm not saying I'm some big fucking like beat maker, beat producer. Like, I've made like a few beats.
So Aidan is incredibly modest, right? So the beat you hear on our introduction that's one of Aidan's own, one of many. I think he's got something, but
mate, that was what happened when I found that sample, man.
I can only imagine, man. It's heavy. I like that, but yeah, it's just like it's cool to think that. You know, you can discover other music. I quite think, right, where did I hear that? And there's another series of records you can listen to called I can't remember. It's all like break beats basically, and it's just got like all the kind of classic tracks that you recognise from contemporary hip hop. A lot using like like Dr. Dre 2001 and all that kind of stuff. And you feel like, oh, that's such a heavy track. But then they use a lot of like prog rock as well, like really kind of weird, kind of folky stuff, and like one of my favourite samples used is in an Apathy track. Yeah. So Apathy's he's a rapper based out of New England, and I think most of our like listeners would have definitely heard of him. He did a lot of stuff with Self-Titled, but he's a sick rapper. I love Apathy. I think he's really, really talented MC. But on one of his tracks, he used a really good sample by a prog rock band called King Crimson. Yeah. And the track's called Starless. And I love that track. Yeah. And a little factoid for you. The lead guitarist of King Crimson, Robert Fripp, is from Wimborne, so just down the road from us.
Ooh, yeah. Fucking hell.
And they used it recently on. Did either of you boys see that film with Nick Cage this year called Mandy?
No.
I won't go into that, but
he's got Mandy?
No, not the Mandy you're talking about, you addict.
Mandy?
But it's just some weird like warped little like horror film with Nick Cage, and they played that track in the intro credits, and I was like, I'm on board immediately. Yeah. But yeah, that is just such a like haunting track. And it's thrown into like a hip hop track, and they throw like the bass line in. And it works perfectly. Cool. I love little discoveries like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, even when I've gone like digging, man, like when I've done it, you don't just fucking like go for all these records. You're like, oh yeah, I know him, I know that person. Like, fuck it, I don't know barely any of these these records I'm looking for. I normally just go off either the artwork. Or if I know know the label, I know that label is like notorious for that sort of music, music I can work with. It is literally like the word digging, like it's luck of the draw what you get, and it's like a lot of work to go through all. And like there's one guy that I actually really admire, and I think I've grown to like him a lot more since starting this podcast. Earlier stuff, not later stuff. You know what I'm gonna say, Mr. West.
Oh, the inventor of hip hop music.
Yeah, and Jake's been like. I think
write a book on the invention of hip hop.
Not his
start
like
in Chicago. At Donda's West House.
On the seventh day, Kanye looked at what he created.
Not his like the later stuff, but like the earlier stuff. That first album. I actually got into Kanye West recently. And since listening to his first album, like I've fallen in love with that album, man. Not really the ones after, but actually the first two maybe.
Family Business, how good is that track, by the way?
Yeah, but and I've got so much. I really like respect him, and I did have a look into like him as a beat maker and the sort of history of him. And what's really cool about him is because he's obviously all of his stuff he's sampled, all the beats he's made he's sampled, and there's this kind of thing like you think to yourself like, well, if this like huge artist who has all this money is sampling tracks, why the fuck has it been taken to like court and stuff and lawsuits and shit like that? And I was trying to like look into this a bit more and find out like what the reasons was, and he was just like, I think he said, you know what, man, I just don't have time for that, I don't give a fuck. And then he said as well, it takes away the magic. It takes away the magic of just like getting a beat, just putting it out there. And also what is the issue as well, there's no streamlined way of doing it. If you for example you're a big artist and you want to take out a song, or you fucking sample this song, you send him an email saying, listen, I want to sample this song, like what do you want me to do? And it's like it's a long process, man. Oh, how about this much money? Fucking song blows up. Oh, actually, no, I want this much money now. There's no easy way to do it. So I think that's where the complication with lawsuits come. But I don't think there's ever going to be really an easy way to do it because, you never know what it's going to be. You can't have one set price for a sample. What about if the song blows up? What if it doesn't blows up?
Yeah, it's difficult. Have you ever listened to or heard of an album called The Grey Album? So
is that Danger Mouse?
Danger Mouse, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a mix of
the Beatles and
the Beatles'
Jay-Z,
White album and Jay-Z's The Black album. That's the Grey album.
Sick, man.
And basically, and Aidan, I'm not sure if you know this. So basically, what the Grey album is, it's the Beatles tracks, but Jay-Z's lyrics of the Black album.
It works.
It
works
really well. You can only find it on YouTube because this was massive in terms of copyright and how it was kind of. When was this released? Early 2000s maybe.
Probably like I don't know, maybe like even the mid like maybe 2005, 6. I don't know.
So the thing was this: is they tried the lawyers got hold of it. They tried to probably get rid of every single copy of this, but the Welcome to the Internet, this thing is obviously kept on. You know, they couldn't get rid of it altogether. And you know, you can go on YouTube now and the whole thing's on there. But yeah, what a fucking great idea.
Yeah.
Danger Mouse, that's such a good show. He's a really underrated producer, I think. Obviously, I think he's best known for. Do you remember Niles Barkley with CeeLo Green?
Yeah.
Obviously, that track "Crazy" is probably like one of the most overplayed like tracks of the last like decade. You know, but a great track all the same. But yeah, that was a really interesting concept. I do like it when artists do that. Have you heard any of his other stuff? Like you did with MF Doom, like Danger Doom?
No, but can I just why that's in my head, MF Doom. Has he got something called with Tyler the Creator? Flower?
Yeah, recently.
Yeah. Have you listened to it?
I haven't.
I think it's about 3 tracks. So I listened to it the other day, but I was going to get your your point of view on that, but we'll part that for now. But that was just why it's fresh in my head,
I did see that pop up, and I haven't dived into it, but I'm intrigued because that sounds like quite a cool combination.
Yeah,
I love Doom, man. I mean, if talking of like beat makers, if anyone for any kind of aspiring beat makers up there with kind of not like with Donuts, because Donuts is obviously like holy grail of beat making.
Up there.
But it's well worth checking out MF Doom's Special Herbs volumes. And they're just like the instrumentals from his albums anyway, and others thrown in. But if you just want to kind of like nod your head to something and chill out, just put your headphones in, I heavily recommend it. It's so good. Like I know we've talked about kind of Dilla and.
I mean, I've compiled a couple of some tracks which feature some of my favourite samples.
Take it away.
Put it together quite quickly. There are a lot of tracks out there which I really respect in terms of their sampling. But if the way I looked at this list when I kind of chucked these songs together is that I knew Aidan and Tom wouldn't pick the same songs if they did the same things as me. So I kind of went with that. So the first one I was going to go with, and I mentioned this on. I can't remember what episode it was, but it's J. Cole's Neighbours.
I guess the neighbors think I'm selling dope. Okay, the neighbors think I'm selling dope.
And that's like a sample of a sample of a sample. So if we start with actually we'll start from the beginning. So 1972, artist called Ronnie Foster. The song's called Mystic Brew. That's where we're kind of starting. That's the original track. Now that's then sampled by a Tribe Called Quest, Electric Relaxation, and then J. Cole samples it on Forbidden Fruit, and then he plays the beat in reverse to get the beat for Neighbours. So that's why that's personally like a good sample of mine, one of my favourites, because it starts off being one thing, gets sampled by another artist, gets sampled by J. Cole, and then just get reversed. And I got a video when I saw him live where he starts playing Forbidden Fruit, and he's like, listen, and it just slowly, you just hear the beat kind of change, and then it just morphs into Neighbours, and that's where everyone kind of suddenly clicks and goes, oh shit, yeah, like, all this time you never noticed it, but it's the same fucking beat.
It's cool when rappers do that, and hip-hop artists do that, when it gets really meta, and they sample their own, like, earlier tracks in more recent songs. Just kind of like throwback stuff. They do that in like UK hip hop as well. I think UK hip hop is still like sampling is still really really prominent versus the US, probably because of the whole kind of again comparing it to the mainstream, it's more like it's a lot less sample heavy. It's a lot less boom bap centric in the States now. Whereas in the UK, it still very much is, but they use very, very kind of more regional samples from like folk songs and stuff like that. But I remember listening to, I think it's that Foreign Beggars and Dr. Syntax track Glacial, and they use a sample of Task Force's Cosmic Gypsies. So you got like Chester P in there, and I thought, oh man, that works really, really well. But I just love when rap gets meta when they sample their own tracks, you know. I think that's kind of cool. But I think like my favourite, I'm a massive like horror film buff.
Yeah.
So like I notice a lot of like cool like samples from horror films and stuff like featured in a lot of like quite famous tracks. And like one of my favourite samples ever used is probably in Busta Rhymes' "Give Me Some More." You've got like the Psycho theme tune. By the late composer Bernard Herrmann.
Right.
And then like the producer on the track was DJ Scratch.
Yeah.
And I just think like those strings in that sample, you know, it's really eerie, and then like Busta's flow just comes through. At the time, you heard nothing else like it.
Yeah, nigga, what a surprise. Give you something, make a nigga close both of your eyes. All my niggas getting money capitalized. Die, little small guy, we on the rise. Everything a nigga touch, platinumized. Full of your quips, you know we coming on supplies.
I just think it's just, to this day, it's still just like, wow, man, like Busta was on another level. But it just, that sample just stands out to me. And then you hear it on like, you watch the film and you're just like, oh, I can't help but think about Busta Rhymes now.
It just sticks
has
you, doesn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? Like you look at it from a completely different lens, and then like the Halloween theme was used in like Dr. Dre's 2001, and like Tubular Bells, you know, the Exorcist theme tune was used in like Freddie Gibbs' track, Jake's namesake.
Wee.
And then another fucking awesome sample, you know, like the whole Enya, is it Boudicca used in the Fugees, Ready or Not?
Yeah.
Like everyone knows that one, don't they? You know, they're kind of like haunting, kind of humming.
Yeah.
It's just classic.
You'll hear it now if you didn't know that already. You'll hear it if you don't. It's one of them where you.
And you could argue as well, but like it's the Fugees that made that track. Like it's more famous for that track than it is for her own. Sorry, Enya. I do like a bit of Enya though.
Another weird sample, another track with a sample in which, if you don't know, now I've said it, you'll go back and you'll hear it every time, and that's in Kendrick Lamar's "Loyalty" off of Damn. The start, and you'll know what I mean. It's Bruno Mars, 24 Karat. It's the first part of the song of Damn. The first part of 24 Karat by Bruno Mars. And it's all kind of distorted and twisted and all things like that. So yeah, when you listen to "Loyalty" by Kendrick Lamar, you know what I mean, and that is actually Bruno Mars' 24 Karat. And that's kind of the trickery of samples. It can be used and manipulated to a way that it sounds good, and it's the same thing, just twisted about. Yeah. Yeah,
man, definitely. I think it's probably like another producer like worth talking about is probably RZA from Wu-Tang. Just to tie into what Jake was saying earlier with his apologies about alluding to that Wu-Tang created sampling, which he didn't obviously mean. It's our first episode. Give him a break.
I was a bit rusty, a bit nervous.
Yeah. So, but RZA, like, he kept everything, like, he used a lot of like Thelonious Monk and those kind of like moody kind of keys and sharp keys and stuff like that. Kept things very, very simple but very, very effective. And obviously sampled a lot of movies, you know, rather than...
I really do like that
yeah, a lot of... I mean, obviously the Wu-Tang get their name from kind of like old kung fu movies. A lot of their tracks and all the members, you know, like Master Killer, like You God, all of these things, right, and all of their kind of aliases are taken from kung fu movies, you know.
Such a good sound.
Exploitation movies, exactly. And that just added a whole new kind of element to sampling.
100%.
It stepped away from kind of, you know, where you had, with early stuff, you had everyone aping James Brown, everyone aping the same stuff, and they just veered into cool, like, innovative stuff like that.
Yeah. I think for me, one of my favourite samples is that the Slit Rig and Dougie Fresh, Lolly Dardee.
Yes.
You know what? Yo, peep this. Lottie-dottie. We like to party. We don't cause trouble. We don't bother nobody. We're just some men that's on the mic. And when we rock up on the mic, we rock the mic.
And there was a video that they did on the TED Talks. I can't remember his name now. Mark Ronson did it. what he said about the history of that sample, and like Miley Cyrus had used it, and Biggie Smalls had used it, and it's a fucking well-renowned sample. And I loved how it's, you know, it's not just it's like the lyrics of it. La-di-da-di-da, we like to, yeah. I'm gonna fuck it up now. But on to like the previous question that you were saying about producers. As a producer, one of my favourite producers would actually probably be Kanye West.
Yeah.
I think production wise, and that's literally only recently. Production wise, he's just so spot on with some of the sounds he makes.
And that is kind of a significant milestone for Shotgun the Aux, because like before we even started this podcast, me and Jake, and I've said this before, we had to give Aidan a nudge. We were like, mate, you make music, you obviously just try to separate yourself from what you hear in the media about the guy. He's a bit of a dickhead, yeah, fine, granted, but he's a very, very talented producer, and I think there's a lot to appreciate there. So it's cool that you actually just kind of like embraced that and went away and did it. Like a lot of people are very set in their ways.
How far through have you got?
Not here at Shotgun the Aux, man.
Oh fuck! I can't. I'm gonna tell you now when I'll have a look at my phone and quickly check the last. Because again, like, guys, don't like think like this guy just fucking doesn't listen to anything, man. Like, I came from like rock, metal, and punk. Mate, punk used to be my thing. You know, I used to love a bit of punk music, and then I just got into like literally came straight to UK hip hop, and then that's kind of like everything that I listened to. But the last album that I listened to from Kanye, it was the one that I sent you. I'm not sure about it.
808s and Heartbreaks.
808s.
And it's a different sound.
Mixed opinion, that one, from a lot of people.
But I really like the College Dropout and the late registration, man. Really like it. But going on from that, I mean, because you're probably going to think like, is this guy into hip hop and like making beats, but never listened to Kanye West? Like I kind of just listened to like just beat makers. And that was, I got like really into like lo-fi and chill hop and that sort of thing, man. And that was my thing. And I don't know if you guys like have heard of these people, but there's a beat maker that I really like, Flo Fills. I think he's produced a few of like the High Focus sort of like songs, and also a guy called, I think I sent you before, Clem Beats.
Yeah.
Like got some really sort of chilled sounds, and yeah, for me that's it, man.
There are so many really, really dope producers like that, aren't there? Beat makers.
Yeah.
Like some good like Spotify playlists just called lo-fi beats or lo-fi hip hop.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned to you boys like a few weeks ago, there's a girl, I think she's from Holland, called Evie, like spelled like the Pokemon, and that's just the kind of stuff.
Yeah, you sent me that was really good.
I just like to nod and just kind of like, you know, nod my head, listen to it. It's just very like, it's just easy on the ears. As you said, like the word you use, like lo-fi. That's why I'm a massive fan of Madlib, because obviously, I mean, he's known probably mainly for like for his like collab album with MF Doom, like Mad Villainy, but he is just sitting on a goldmine of beats, man. And I think like one of my favourite tracks he produced, and I can never ever articulate why I love it so much, is a track by a rapper called Blue, and the track's called Jesus.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
I don't know why I love it so much, but it's just like, you know, like music just takes you back to a certain point in time, and you kind of get nostalgic.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man.
It just has that kind of like hypnotic effect on me. It's well weird, but Madlib does that.
I get that when I listen
to
it.
It's one of those things. It's just one of those songs you can never put your finger on why you like it, but you just like it.
Yeah,
that's it. That's kind of like the end of it.
Exactly.
You have to explain yourself. Yeah,
that's the thing with music, though, isn't it? I mean, like typically a song. What's an average length of a song is like what 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not like something like more substantial, which is longer or bigger, where you can objectively say that's good or that's bad because of this, that, and the other. You either get it or you don't, or you like it or you don't. Yeah. It's just difficult, but. What do
you think of lo-fi? Because recently I've heard lo-fi has gotten quite big recently in amongst as a genre as a whole, but I think there's a lot of mixed opinions from what I've heard about it, because it's like aesthetically it's a really nice sound, but in terms of like a lot of the beats I hear made, they're very sort of that like easily put together, you
similar.
know, or similar, and all mate. At the end of the day, all you like a lot of the time, all you need is like a break, and then just a sample. Like it's not as creative as what like it used to be, and what some artists are.
Mm-hmm. And I guess like some are probably more like I guess held to high esteem than others. Like, you know, I sent you that guy. I was like, oh, have you heard Jing Sang? And you were just like, I mean, instantly, like, Aidan instantly responded with like a photo of like the vinyl he owned. I was like, yeah, of course it was. and that's why, because like Jing Sang to me, I listened to, and you're like, oh right, he kind of stands out a bit because
definitely.
Of the samples he uses and stuff, like he uses like Biggie in quite a few samples and stuff like that. But it's just really, really well put together. But I do get your argument. Some of it's can be quite samey, and it's hard to like differentiate between the artists sometimes. If you're listening to a playlist on loop.
100%, yeah.
But then, you know,
it's good stuff. Some really like talented people out there, and I think that like lo-fi as a genre, when done well, you know, it's production like and beat making is in its like sort of realist form. You know, it's a whole fucking genre devoted to beat making, and that's what I do really enjoy about some of it.
What was that? What are those French artists called? Is it FKA and Twigs?
Oh, I know you're on about FJK. Yeah, FJK.
FJK.
And so he's like, I think the actual FJK. Yeah, so he's basically, I don't know how to describe him. He's like a multi-instrumentalist.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see him in like a studio, and he's got like a keyboard, a sampler, keyboards, his guitar, other sort of instruments, and he kind of goes round. It's like he uses like a loop pedal, and goes round and just makes like an entire tune. Man, he really, really talented guy.
But they have like videos on YouTube where they're piecing the whole song together and they're jumping from instrument to instrument, and you see it all unravel, and it's just like, okay, so yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it if you don't think it's an art form. Like, it's just like you watch that
video, it's sick. Yeah.
It's just nuts.
I was actually going to mention that a minute ago, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So, like, I remember you showing me that, Aidan, a while back, and I thought, yeah, that's so good. Just to bring on to another track of the samples I like. And it's Drake's Pound Cake featuring Jay-Z. That's got 3 samples in it. One of Jimmy Smith rap. So Jimmy Smith is a jazz artist. And for those who know the song will know the talking bit at the beginning. And that's the Jimmy Smith sample. And then the kind of squeaky, kind of really high pitched kind of singy bit, I suppose, in the song. It's actually Ellie Goulding, a track called Don't Say a Word. Never personally heard of that track myself, and it was only when I looked into it a bit more that I realised it was an Ellie Goulding sample. I was like, it's another one of those you're like, fucking hell, really?
But that's cool though,
yeah,
because it's just like, okay, like it's taking something from a really kind of like obscure source or something you wouldn't necessarily associate with that genre, and like repurposing it.
Yeah,
but that's amazing, right? That's like the whole appeal of sampling.
So 2 kind of more obscure samples, and then it just leads into obviously a sample that everyone's gonna know, and it's the Wu-Tang sample in Pound Cake. So the Cream sample, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money.
Dollar bill, y'all.
Thank you. So that's sampled in it, and like probably one of my favourite tracks on that album. You know, Jay-Z verse goes in, and it's just a sick track. But yeah, some really good obscure samples again in that, and you can see the theme I've gone of kind of Cole, Kendrick, Drake. I know you two wouldn't actually have picked them, but that's why I kind of went for it. Maybe just to introduce you into something different.
Definitely.
Looking at you, Aidan.
we're all about diversity here, man. So that's cool. So I think like no conversation about sampling would be complete without talking about DJ Premier. Like, just want to give him a shout out. I don't have to dig too deep into him, because I mean everyone knows DJ Premier. Like, I love his loops, I love his samples. His beats are really kind of repetitive, but in a really kind of like distinct way. You know, with Gangstar, you instantly know like a primo beat when you hear it. And it's cool that he's crossed over. Do you know what I mean? He embraces the UK scene as well. Like, I remember he heard like Kalashnikov, It's Murder, and he was like he was kind of like trying to like give out a bit of promo over in the States as well, saying like, yeah, this guy is really fucking heavy, like check him out. And then he's done beats with like, you know, the 4 Owls. It's just like, I love that, man. I think that's really cool. When like you know, actually like giving him the time. I think that's really cool.
I think that goes back to like UK hip hop has been on leaps and bounds, and is getting big, and it's a growing man. And it's like that song with that Ocean Wisdom did with Method Man.
Yeah.
Is Ting Done?
Ting Done.
Oh, I love that.
I have said this before, but I'll say it again. I was in the crowd that was featured in the music video, and it went off, man. It was so good. Yeah.
Sick
so
track,
good.
man. Sick track. Aidan, I'm gonna put you on the spot, right?
Fucking hell.
If you had to choose a track to sample in a song, what track would you choose?
That is literally such a hard question.
Just if you just to pull out a track out of nowhere and just say, I like that song and I'd like to try and sample it, or a bit of it.
Willy Willy Bum Bum.
Baby Shark. What hard song that would be.
Let me just have a think, because I know what song it is, but I can't remember what it's called.
To be fair, that is like an insanely difficult
Yeah,
question.
I know it is. That's why I kind of wanted to put him on the spot and just see if he'd come out with like a random song, and I think he's been thinking about this.
Yeah.
Obviously he hasn't. I'll tell you a random song and a sample. Came out last year. Favourite sample of last year, A$AP Rocky. The Moby sample, Porcelain. In the song Forever. Oh man. Obviously, it's a sample. When you hear it, you know straight away that for those who know Porcelain by Moby, you know the sample. It's not one of them where you kind of like discover it after researching it. You know it instantly. But just the way they've kind of used that really distinctive song in that form, it's just.
I remember buying Moby Play, the album that's on cassette when it first dropped. I think I was 12. But that album's really, really sick.
I think my song would probably be, and it's a song that I really fucking like enjoy, and I only actually heard it when I watched on Peaky Blinders. It's a song called Bye Bye Blackbird by Gene Austen. I really like 1920s sort of songs, like English 1920s. They've got such a cool sound to them. And I mean, I would love to try and do some of that, but again, it just comes down to like time, and I need to make time to sort of get back into it, man.
Do you know what song I'd sample?
What song do you sample?
Hit the road, Jack.
I guarantee someone's used that. I think we should find out in the meantime. But do you know what else I like? You know that. Do you remember that Tiptoe Through the Tulip song by Tiny Tim from Insidious? He's like, tiptoe through the window.
That's the sort of shit that I love.
Oh mate, you did that so perfectly.
I've been practicing. But yeah, somebody sampled that. So we've gone through a lot of content, some great discussion all around. Like everyone, you could tell, was really like animated and excited to talk about this stuff. But like, I mean, guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast, happy to hear your thoughts. Join the discussion. If you're a beat maker, send us your beats. We'll try to feature them in future episodes. All of that good stuff. But yeah, always happy to take feedback, man. Where can you find us, Aidan?
So you can find us on @ShotgunTheOx on Instagram and Twitter. Listen to us on Spotify. Listen to us on iTunes. Please give us, please rate us on iTunes and also write a review. Would help us massively. You know, like we don't do this for any money at all. Like we make no money out of this, so it's more just because we enjoy doing it. But if more people would listen to it, then it makes it more fun.
100%, man. Join the conversation. Join the movement. Shotgun the Ox.
Someone gave you like a little sort of like wink in there.
A little wink and a gun in there, like Che Guevara. Actually, I think Aidan looks a bit like Che Guevara. Like, I just,
I'll put you on a t-shirt.
Just throwing it out there.
And I'll leave you with this. A good composer doesn't imitate, he steals.
Quite like that. Big up.
Nice one. Thank you. We've been Shotgun the Ox.
Peace out. Good. God bless.
Blackbird, blackbird, singing the blues all day, right outside of my door. Blackbird, blackbird, why do you sit and say there's no sunshine in store?